Yes, Gopiji.
Ellarku namaskara. Very warm welcome to all the wonderful viewers for the 13th edition of Online Samvada brought to you by VHS Karnataka. We had amazing 12 episodes of Samvada from VHS Karnataka until now, including last Friday on Vedic Darshanas in the contemporary world by Sri Vinay Acharya. Our civilization dates back to many thousands of years and had accumulated ocean of knowledge and wisdom through our gurus, rishis, devatas, passed on this wisdom from generation to generation through values, traditions, culture, and in total by Sanatana Dharma. Today's topic on this Samvada is Sanatana Dharma, the true scientific religion. To talk about this, we have a special guest speaker, Swami Nirbhayananda Saraswatiji, President of Sri Ramakrishna Vivekananda Ashram, North Karnataka. Swami Nirbhayananda Saraswatiji represented in fact Hinduism in the Fourth World Parliament of Religion held in Barcelona, Spain in the year 2004, in addition to holding discussions with the staff of Bangkok on the same. There onwards, he has been continuously touring Europe, America, elsewhere across the globe, giving talks in the universities like Stanford, Boulders, etc., in addition to addressing the public in the cities like San Francisco, New York, Boston, Chicago, Atlanta, and elsewhere. Swamiji was also invited by the government of Italy to inaugurate their national festival. Swamiji has been conferred with title Ambassador of Peace by Universal Peace Foundation, an organization of United Nations, for his speech in UNO. Swamiji is the most sought after speaker in Karnataka and has addressed several hundreds of youth conference and teachers conference all over the state, and is an inspiration behind Sri Ramakrishna Vivekananda activities in North Karnataka. I'm also joined by Sri Nikunshaji, VHS Karnataka State President, Sri Gadagi Rakesh and Tejas as well. Now I request Sri Gadagi Rakesh to co-host today's event. Please go ahead, Gadagi. Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Gopiji. Thank you, Gopiji. I cordially welcome from the bottom of my heart Srimad Swami Nirbhayananda Saraswati Ji Maharaj to start the program by the topic Sanatana Dharma, a true scientific religion. Over to you, Swamiji. Please go ahead.
Thank you.
Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadguru Padapadme Tayoshritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu Namashri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukhatsvarupaya Swamine Tapaharine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Krupa Tamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Vireshwarananda Dayamrutadhim Shri Ranganathancha Vijnana Bhanum Chidananda Rupa Shri Purushottamaryam Dhyayam Hrudisthan Krutinam Hyavaimi. Honorable and dear Shriman Shri Shahji, President Karnataka VHS Unit, Shriman Shri Rakesh, Shriman Shri Tejas, Shriman Shri Gopi, and perhaps all other friends who are not visible right now. It is an occasion for me, I deem it as, that I have an opportunity to share a few of my thoughts with people who are really interested to know all these things, and sharing with whom I feel it's an elation for me. Hinduism is perhaps the most interesting and the most profound subject one can ever think of in the contemporary world. Because Hinduism is a subject which includes almost every other subject under the sun. There is nothing that remains outside the pale of Hinduism. For it is Paravidya, it is called as Paravidya by the rishis that gave us Mundukopanishad. There arises a very pertinent and relevant question in Mundukopanishad, raised by one of the students that were listening to the great scholarly rishi that has given this sermon that we see in Mundukopanishad. The question is very interesting. The question reflects the sort of the hunger for knowledge that Indian students in ancient times had during Upanishadic days, I mean. The question runs like, Kasmin bhagavo vijnate sarvam idam vijnatam bhavati. So, what is it? By knowing which, we can know all. See, the student is not interested in specializing in mathematics. He is not interested to become a peerless scholar in medical science. He is not interested in aeronautical engineering. He is not interested in agricultural science. He wants that knowledge which is inclusive of all other knowledge, the whole of the knowledge, the whole body of knowledge. Is it ever possible? Is it ever possible? It is possible. There is a knowledge, there is Vidya, which is inclusive of all other Vidyas. The teacher answers it in the affirmative. He says, yes, Dve Vidye Veditavye. There are two branches of knowledge by knowing which you can know each and everything. You have known everything that needs to be known, that deserves to be known. Dve Vidye Veditavye. Parat, Aparatcha. One is Paravidya and the other one is Aparavidya. Paravidya is the knowledge or the science that deals with the knower. Aparavidya is the science that deals with the known, the external world. Same sentiment Krishna expresses in Bhagavad Gita when he says, Kshetra Kshetrajnayor Jnanam Yatta Jnanam Matam Mama. According to me, Arjuna, Jnanam means Kshetra Kshetrajnayor Jnanam. The real Jnanam should have two faces. The Jnana of the Kshetra and the Jnana of the Kshetrajna. Kshetra means everything except the knower, whatever objective world you are seeing outside. The whole external framework. I am viewing and something is being viewed. I am studying and something is being studied. I am studying except me, everything else is being studied. The subject is studying the object. There is that objective world and the subject is studying it. The science of the subject, who is the one that studies it? Kenopanishad elaborately deals with that. Kenopanishad deals with the viewer, the studier, the student, or the one that studies the whole thing. That itself is a science. And the greatness of India is that it affirms, it asserts, it declares in no uncertain terms that unless you have mastery over the science of the viewer, unless you have known all the knowledge pertaining to the one that studies, the knowledge of whatever is studied, the knowledge about anything that is being studied will be incomplete. This is the beauty that Indian religion has revealed to the whole world. Even Eddington, astrophysicist, the man that was treated on par with even Einstein, the professor that acted as a guide to Professor S. Chandrasekhar of Indian origin, nephew of C.V. Raman. Eddington says, unless scientist knows his mind thoroughly, whatever that is being studied by him will be either incomplete or defective. So therefore, India's greatness lies in the fact that it has all along been emphasizing that man, first you know yourself. Unless and until you know yourself thoroughly, whatever knowledge that you are giving, whatever knowledge you are having about any other subject in this world will be either defective or it will be incomplete. That's what that has happened to the modern day science. Dalton comes and says something, within 50 years that will be demolished. Rutherford comes and says something, within 50 years it is demolished. J.J. Thomson comes and says something, within 50 years that will be demolished. Heisenberg comes and he says something. Erwin Schrödinger comes, says something. Even today, it is not possible for them to come out with the true nature of the building material of the universe. Why? Because they are not studying those things in a way they should have been studied. Why? Ages ago, way back in the days of Upanishads itself, way back in the days of Vedas itself, Indians have come out with perfect conclusions about the objective world as well as the subject that studies this objective world. Objective world, they have said long ago, they have given uncertainty principle. During the time Shankaracharya came out with that wonderful philosophy of Maya. Maya theory is, remember, that is the origin. That is the origin of all uncertainty principles. Maya means something uncertain. Long ago they have said the whole world is Maya, the material of which the world is made. That is Maya only. And what is the nature of Maya? So beautifully Shankara puts it. If you see the definition Shankara has given to the concept of Maya, you think as though that is the Sanskrit translation of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle only. Or if you see Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, you mistake it as though it is Shankara's Maya theory being translated into English. The material cause of the universe and the instrumental cause of the universe, both is Maya only. And what is the definition Shankara imparts to this concept of Maya? What is the definition he gives? Samnapi, asamnapi, ubhayatmika no. Sangapi, adangapi, ubhayatmika no. Bhinnapi, abhinnapi, ubhayatmika no. Mahadbhuta, anirvachaniya rupa. You cannot define that. Anirvachaniya means it is undefinable, indeterminate. You cannot say conclusively. You cannot say like idamitham. It is so. It is exactly so. You cannot use that language whenever you are saying something about the building material of the universe, which is Maya, according to Shankara and Indian Vedanta, which is anything according to the modern day scientific community, about which they are yet to come to some definite conclusion. Some time ago they called it God particle. I do not know what they will call it as some time later. So what I mean is, Indian philosophy or Indian religion or Hinduism is a science. It is not a religion in the sense Westerners have understood that word religion. It is the science of the self of man. It is the science of the universe. It deals with three subjects. Every science in this world deals with only these three subjects. A conclusion India came to long ago. What are the three subjects that Indian philosophy has been dealing with ever since they felt like doing something on this subject? Jiva, Jagattu and Ishvara. These are the principal subjects Indian philosophy has dealt with. Jiva means the subject, the viewer. Jagattu, objective world. Ishvara, the connection between these two. Jiva, Jagattu, Ishvara are the three principal subjects that are being dealt with by Indian philosophers. Hinduism. When the modern scientific community is not in a position to come to perfect and definite conclusion about the most important thing that the whole world today is engaged, the intellectual world of today is engaged in, is to find out the building material of the universe, because unless and until you know the nature of the building material, you can never know the true nature of the universe itself. You can never know the true nature of anything in this universe, anything that belongs to this universe. Even this table upon which I have kept my laptop, I cannot know perfectly. Yeah, apparently it is wood. This table is wood apparently. But a man of physics will say it is electromagnetic field. But Indian philosopher will say it is Brahman. Brahman appearing as electromagnetic field, in turn appearing as the wood. This is India's concept of this table. You can never find a more accurate concept than this. Is this not science? This is Hindu concept and this is the most scientific concept. I have given just one example. Why? The other day Erwin Schrödinger has said, according to Hindus, the whole universe is consciousness. Yes, Vedas itself have said Sarvam Khalvidam Brahman. The whole world is Brahman. And what is that Brahman? Prajnanam Brahma. Prajnanam means consciousness. This whole universe is made of Brahman, Maya, one and the same practically. And that Brahman is consciousness. And there is only one consciousness. There is no plurality for consciousness. What did Erwin Schrödinger say the other day? He has said the same thing. Consciousness is the one which is always in the singular, the plurality for which we have never been able to know. And whatever plurality you find outside, whatever multiplicity that you find outside is our own construction based on the temporal multiplicity of the individuals. This is Erwin Schrödinger's observation. Whatever multiplicity that you find outside is not in reality multiplicity at all. It is our own construction, dependent upon, based on the temporal plurality of the individuals, and it is a false construction. So outwardly, apparently, this world is multiplicity. Strictly speaking, going by the truth of all truths, this world is unique. Unity, it is unity, because it is made of consciousness, which is always singular and not plural. On the one hand, there is a singular thing. On the other hand, apparently it is multiplicity. How to reconcile? Is there any success? Is there any right, viable, suitable solution or suggestion provided by any scientific corner anywhere in this world to strike a balance between these apparently contradictory views? The multiplicity and the plurality, Schrödinger continues to say, the only school of philosophy that can help us to reconcile between the multiplicity of the individuals and the unity inside all this multiplicity is found in the Upanishads and nowhere else. Upanishads, remember, is a part of Hinduism. Why? Even the father of atom bomb, Robert Oppenheimer, says whatever we shall find in modern physics is an exemplification, a refinement and encouragement of the ancient wisdom of the Hindus. How many you want? I can quote at least a dozen scientists who have come out with the conclusion that modern physics has to beg for light from Upanishads from now onwards. And there is nothing material, everything is spiritual. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. It is so common thing for us to memorize this statement and remember this is going to be, and this is the profoundest sentiment any scientist may claim in future. What is it? The whole world is made of consciousness. There is no material thing. Nothing is material. Everything is immaterial. Everything is spiritual. Brahman is the beyond and end all. That's what Upanishad says again. Look this side, you find Brahman. Look that side, you find Brahman. Look inside, you find Brahman. Look outside, you find Brahman. It is Brahman everywhere and nothing else. And therefore you, man, the viewer, you are also Brahman. Like this, you will see 101 things that support the fact that Hinduism is not a religion. That is why there is no any founder for Hinduism. If it were a religion, there would have been a founder. It is no religion. Therefore, there is no founder. It is only for the science that you find no founder. Mathematics has no founder. Physics has no founder. In fact, this is the question I was asked by a lady professor in CO when I had gone there in connection with some international conference, a Muslim lady, but a very nice lady. She was a professor in Islamic University of Indonesia, that is in Kuala Lumpur. I had an occasion to dine with her. We had shared the same dining table. And incidentally, she asked me a question. Sir, who is the founder of your religion? I said, Madam, there is no founder because our religion is a science. Conventionally, people call it as religion, but strictly speaking, it's a science of human unfoldment. It is a science of human excellence. It is the science of the self of man. It is the science of human excellence. It is the science of human growth. It is the science of human evolution. Hinduism deals with the science of evolution. It is a science that gives you idea about how to accelerate your evolution. Darwin deals with the subject of evolution up to the mark where the living being comes to the stage of a human being. From amoeba to human being, perhaps Darwin's discovery may find some relevance. What about the post-human revolution? Body changes will not be there. Bodily, Vivekananda will not differ from Veerappan. The body of a Veerappan and the body of Vivekananda will remain one and the same. Apparently, they are one and the same. There is no bodily change. You dare say, their level of evolution also is same. So organic evolution ceases to be any more functional at human level. Then what is the arena where the process of evolution will be operated at human level and post-human level? It is at the level of the psyche of man. From human being onwards, it is psychosocial evolution. It is psychosocial evolution and not organic evolution, as the case has been all along, from amoeba up to the human status, human stage, you can say. So it's a psychosocial evolution. You have to deal with the mind of man. Mind, intellect, ego, and chitta, the storehouse of all impressions. Mano, buddhi, ahankara, chitta. All the four are one and the same. Acharya Shankara gives a beautiful description about the sameness of all these four different and seemingly different dimension of the subtle body of a man in his beautiful treatise Viveka Chudamani. And in his Nirvana Shatakam, he rejects all the four as the I. I am not any of these four. Mano, buddhi, ahankara, chitta, dinam. I am neither of any of these. I am none of any of these four, he says. So, the mind, the ego, the intellect or buddhi, etc., they must be dealt with at human level for promoting your evolution. And that is the uniqueness of man, that you can take up the whole process of evolution into your own hand. Till human level, you depend on the mercy of nature for your evolution. The nature works out evolution on you in its own way, bit by bit. Thousands of years of gap may be there from one process of evolution, one stage of evolution, and the next stage of evolution. You are totally at the mercy. You have no say as regards there, as far as your evolution up to human stage is concerned. But once you reach your human stage, then what you have to do? The ego will have to be replaced by the self of man. The aham, the false self. Aham means the mistaken self. The notion of self that presently you have in you about your own self is a mistaken notion. That is aham. You have mistaken yourself as something which you are not. Your self is mistaken for something that is not. And the mistaken notion is aham. I am Swami Nirbhayananda. I have this much of height, this much of weight, this is my biodata. All those things pertain to my concept of what I am. But strictly speaking, I am Satchidananda. I am Atman. How to come out of this mistaken notion? How to come out of this wrong concept that I have developed about my own self? This is the scope of Hinduism. This is the subject matter of Hinduism. Any person today, if at all he is suffering, any suffering man in the whole universe is because he has clung himself to firmly, tightly to the notion of ego, aham. The one solution for all the problems is to detach himself from this ego and establish himself in that concept of self. Vivekananda comes out beautifully about this. He says, problems are understandably many, but the solution is one. See, this is again Hinduism. Perhaps other religions may give 101 solutions for 101 problems. Hinduism doesn't believe, because the central idea of Hinduism is, what is it by getting which we have got all? Sir, what is it by knowing which I have known all? If that is the sentiment of a student, anyone who is not a student, who has transcended his student position, his student stage, who has entered into the Grihastha stage, or who has entered into the Sannyasa stage, will definitely feel prompted to know what is it by getting which I can get all. A sannyasi may try to know what is it, by realizing which I have realized my whole self, the whole Brahman. So India or Hinduism believes in getting that one which is inclusive of all other. That is the uniqueness and the greatness of Hinduism. Vivekananda gives a beautiful expression to it. He says, problems are understandably many, but the solution is one. Man must become a new kind of man who, simultaneously being scientific and spiritual, eventually becomes free. Spiritual means establishing yourself in the spirit and not in the ego, establishing yourself in the Atman and not in the Aham. I am this, I am that, all those things, they pertain only to the psycho-physiological setup. My psyche will go on changing and my physiology will go on changing. When I was 5-year-old boy, my physiology was different. Yesterday, my psyche was different. Psyche changes every 5 minutes. Your psyche means your mind. Your mind changes every 1 second. Every 2 years, every 3 years, your physiology will change. The combination of these two is always subject to eternal changes. When I was a boy of 5 years, I had a different body. Now I have a different body. Between my 5-year-old self and today's my being, I have gone through thousands and thousands of bodies. If I am body, which of these bodies really I am? Let us logically think for a while. No other religion will think on these lines. If I am body, I had 101 bodies in my life so far. I am one always. Therefore, if I am body, I should be that one, just one body. Any body for that matter. Because I am one, I am not plural. When I say I, it is first person singular. If I am body, which of these bodies that I am? Can I deny that I was through other bodies? Am I a body? I am not body. Am I mind? Every 5 seconds my mind is changing. Which of those minds that I am, I can associate myself, identify myself with. If I am one, and if by that I, if I mean one, then I must be that something which is always one. That one is infinity. Only infinity is one, and no other thing is one. Only infinity is one. Therefore, I am infinity. And even according to Einstein's theory of relativity, in a changeable world, you can never perceive change unless it has got the background of something that is unchangeable. That is the conclusion of theory of relativity. I don't explain it. We all know. If I am seeing any change anywhere in this world, it is possible for me to observe that change only when it has got a background which is either unchangeable or less changing. Otherwise, I can never perceive any change at all. This is the general conclusion of Einstein's relativity. Okay, I am seeing some scene. Yes, one. Some scene. Some drushya. Some scene. Yes, one. If I am able to see change in S1, then there is S2 in the background, which is either less changing or not changing. Okay, it is less changing. If S2 is also changing, and if I am able to see S2 changing, then it is S3, which is still less changing. Extend the argument ad infinitum, ultimately you come to the conclusion that there is a background which is unchangeable because the changing process is diminishing, and ultimately at one point of time you will come to see that there is an entity which is zeros, which is changing to the extent of zero, which is unchangeable, immutable. Remember, only infinity is unchangeable. Only infinity is immutable. So therefore, if my body is changing, my mind is changing, I must be in a position to visualize, logically conclude that there is something unchangeable in me, where the rishis of the Vedas found it out long ago, and they came out with it. Yes, you are that infinity. You are that infinity, and you are that Atman. You are Satchidananda. You have an existence which is absolute. You have a knowledge which is limitless, and you have bliss that is untarnished. So my basic nature is, I have an existence which is absolute, I have knowledge which is limitless, and I have Ananda, or the bliss that is untarnished. That is my Swarupam, which is Atman, according to Hinduism. So you are that. You are not in a position to see it. Maybe you are not in a position to see it. So many things are there which we are able to see, but which are only false. You see sky to be very blue, but there is nothing blue there. You see sun always moving. Sun is not moving. Your perception will deceive you several times. Perception is not the ultimate conclusion. Sun is moving according to perception. Only we know in today's science, through today's science, we know that sun is not moving, and therefore we are saying some other thing. Perception wise, what does your eye say? What is the conclusion your eye can reach when it looks at the sun? Sun is in the eastern horizon in the morning, and he is somewhere above my head in the afternoon, and in the evening he is in the other horizon. According to the definition of displacement or motion, when a thing is found in different places at different time intervals, it is moving. So sun must be moving. You say sun is moving. Perception is not the final thing to conclude anything. Perception must be backed by the logic. Logic totally rejects this perception. And therefore, if there is a clash between logic and perception, logic should be held on to and not the perception. So I am perceiving my body, I am perceiving my mind, fine. But I am not body, because logic will totally knock it off. Logic will not validate the concept that I am body or I am mind. Then who am I? Remember, friends, in half an hour I cannot come to any conclusion. Vivekananda says, the best and the most brilliant brains of India return to forest. What a wonderful observation that a great saint has made. The best and the most brilliant brains of India retired to forest and took themselves to the study of man from all possible angles. And the study took place for 50 long centuries, not for a day or two. The study took place for 5,000 years, 50 long centuries. The result is Vedanta, the basis of Indian philosophy of life or Indian culture. Vedanta took its birth how? How Vedanta came into being. It was not a concoction. It was not something, a fanciful utterance of someone at some point of time. The best and the most brilliant brains of India retired to forest, not ordinary brains. The best brains, the most brilliant brains. Look at the Upanishadic seals. Can you refute one single sentence from the Upanishads? Can you deny one single sentence from the Vedas? Look at your modern day science. Dalton has been refuted long ago. Rutherford has been disproved. Heisenberg may be disproved. Einstein on the verge of getting disproved. Is there any one single saint belonging to the Upanishadic era, a single Rishi belonging to Vedic law, whom you can deny the verity of his statement, though thousands of years ago they were made? Where from the conclusions came? Again, for the right conclusions to be arrived at, remember, the scientist that is studying the outside world, the subject that is studying the objective world, will have some sort of an equipment inside. You need to have an equipment inside. What is that equipment? You must be having a pure mind, a thoroughly clean mind, the mind that is devoid of all the samskaras. That state of mind Indians call as Turiyavastha, transcendental state. All the rishis, no rishi came to any conclusion when he was not in transcendental state. Only people for whom being at transcendental level was something so natural, so easy, they only dared come out with conclusions. The rest could not even dare. India would reject all such things. Remember, whatever Vedas may be having, any number of times more of the volume of knowledge might have been there amidst Indians. But they all might have been mercilessly rejected. We see in Upanishad itself, a rishi meekly accepting the falsehood of his statement when a greater truth comes and looms large before him. That humility, that marvelous humility the rishis had, unlike today's scientific community. We all know the Copenhagen argument between Einstein and Heisenberg, Einstein and Niels Bohr. Einstein is not ready to accept the uncertainty principle. He says God does not play dice, because Heisenberg is affirmatively putting forth his philosophy of uncertainty. Einstein is rejecting. The guru of Heisenberg, Niels Bohr, took Einstein to task. God does not play dice was the statement made by Einstein. Niels Bohr with equal vehemence said, nor is it my business or your business to dictate to God as to how he must run the universe. Einstein, a man of the stature of Einstein, is not having that meekness or that clarity of mind, that readiness to accept something that is proposed to him when he finds it is something not in tune with the logic. It may not be in tune with the logic of your mind, the logic that you are familiar with. And most of the things are not logical. Beyond a certain point, nothing is logical. Truths are always beyond logic. Otherwise, we cannot account for the creation at all. Because creation has to come from Brahman, which is infinite. Nothing can come, nothing can emerge out of infinite. Because infinite is immutable. Nothing can come. You may take anything out of infinite, that will be another infinite only. Divide infinite into any parts, each part will be an infinite. And you can't have more than one infinity at a time. You can't divide infinity. So Brahman, which is infinite, remains as Brahman only. Then what about the world? This world has come from Brahman. What does it mean? So here, logic fails. But as long as logic is in our favor, or as long as logic holds its cord firmly, as long as logic is relevant, logic is valid, we have to take recourse to logic only. So, people, the Indians, the most brilliant brains, the best brains that studied this world for 50 long centuries, they all first set up themselves on that transcendental state, which is called as Turiyavastha. So in that Turiyavastha, they studied the Jagat and the Ishvara. The Jiva attained to the state of Turiyavastha and later studied the world outside, as a result of which we got this marvelous fund of knowledge, which we call today as Hinduism, which is in a position to aid modern science wherever modern science is in need of some light. Science itself is not in a position to supply the light that it badly wants. Directly or indirectly, it is taking recourse to Indian Vedanta. In fact, Heisenberg's problem was solved by Rabindranath Tagore because uncertainty and Maya agreed with each other. When Heisenberg somehow stumbled upon an opportunity to meet Tagore and explain to him the difficulty that he was facing in putting forth his philosophy, Tagore said, "Don't worry, you are on the right track. Your philosophy is on the right track. Yes, there is uncertainty about the building material of the universe. That's what we Indian philosophers, we the Indians have believed in. We know, and we know it for certain, that the whole world is, the whole creation is made of Maya, which is always uncertain. You cannot define Maya. Anirvachaniya Rupa, Mahadbhuta, Anirvachaniya Rupa. Maya is such that it is indeterminable, undefinable. You are right. The building material of the universe is undefinable. It is uncertain. Uncertainty principle is certainly valid. So friends, you can enumerate any number of illustrations to prove that Hinduism is not a religion as it is conventionally understood. It is not a religion in the sense Westerners have understood. Our religion is a science. It is the science of sciences. Krishna makes it very clear when he said in Bhagavad Gita, Adhyatma Vidya Vidyanam, among the sciences, I am the spiritual science, because that is the crowning science. That is the highest science. Because that science requires a very, very tough criterion on the part of the person that is viewing the world. Unless and until the person that wants to study the world can establish himself in the Turiyavastha, you cannot be a scientist at all. You have not fulfilled the criterion to become a scientist. Whatever observation you may give, it gets rejected off and it is trash. We don't mind throwing it out. Therefore, Shankara, Ramanuja and Madhvacharya mainly, and all other acharyas also, whenever they wanted to give their views about this Jiva, Jagattu and Ishvara, they had to prove that their philosophy is perfectly in tune with the philosophy propounded by Prasthanatraya. Prasthanatraya means Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Sutras. Of course, all the three different books deal with the same theme, that is Jiva, Jagattu and Ishvara. All the three acharyas had to prove before the Mandali of Panditas, Pandita Mandali, that their views totally concur with the views of Vedavyasa, Krishna and all such great seers who have built up Hinduism, and that was the criterion for them. Similar criterion, if today's modern scientific community also adopts, if it adopts and comes out with such very tough, very challenging criterion, then perhaps the riddles that we are seeing, the uncertainties that we are seeing in the discoveries of modern day science will not be there, and science will be more aided therethrough. Science will not be insulted thereby, it will be very much aided. Science will be equipped in a better way to come out with conclusions which are more accurate, are more in tune with the truth of all truths. Satyam, Satyameva Jayate, Nanrutam. After all, whether he is a scientist or a rishi or sannyasi, our pursuits have been one and the same, that is to see truth, experience truth, and enjoy the bliss of truth. I wish we as Indians have a onerous responsibility of knowing all these truths and making them known to the rest of the world. As Vivekananda said, the whole world is in need of light, and India alone has that light. On his return from America, while addressing the South Indians, I don't exactly remember which place he uttered this particular sentence. Of course, it was in South India. He had maybe in Madras or somewhere else. He said, the whole world is in need of light, and India alone has that light. The ultimate light will have to come only from India and from nowhere else. Ever since civilization started dawning on the soil of India, we have been the most intellectual race. Even today, of course, Gopi was in America for quite a long time. Go to any school in the United States, you will see more than half the toppers are Indian boys and Indian girls. Our blood is like that. Our race is like that. This is what exactly Vivekananda told Jamshedji Tata during his journey from Yokohama to Vancouver, en route to Colombo, en route to Chicago, of course, through Columbia, through Vancouver. Vivekananda was a fellow traveler of Jamshedji Tata. Tata was very much attracted by the magnetic personality that Vivekananda was. There accrued some sort of an acquaintance between them, a close kinship they felt with each other. And in the course of the conversation that Swamiji had with Tata, he charged Tata with one responsibility. I would like to quote the very sentence that Vivekananda has said. Tata, I have thoroughly studied the philosophy of Indians as well as the Westerners. Before the analytical abilities of Indian seers, Westerners stand nowhere. They come nowhere near Indian philosophers as far as their ability to analyze into the mysterious concepts they are interested to make a study about. If only we can have some good centers for scientific research in India, India will be in a position to produce world-class scientists with whom there is none on par. Tata took it very seriously. And Vivekananda also suggested, please start one scientific research center. And you started in Bangalore. Tata started in Bangalore, which is today called as Indian Institute of Science, which was previously called as Tata Institute. Jamshedji Tata took it very seriously. And the same sentiment that Vivekananda expressed was expressed by T.S. Eliot some 50 years later. You know what T.S. Eliot has said about Indian philosophers? He says, before the subtleties of Indian philosophers, most of our great European thinkers look like schoolboys. T.S. Eliot is a Westerner, he is not a Hindu. Not at all a Brahmin, he is not a Hindu, he is not an Indian, not an Indian sannyasi. T.S. Eliot, an American, a Harvard product. Such T.S. Eliot says, Nobel laureate, T.S. Eliot says, before the subtleties of Indian philosophers, most of our great European thinkers look like schoolboys. Even Max Muller says, none of our philosophers, not excluding Plato, Kant, Hegel, even Herbert Spencer, has been in a position to produce the sort of the philosophy that Indian seers have put up. This is what Max Muller says. Almost all right-thinking thinker, the unbiased thinker from the West, has hailed the greatness of Indian intellectuality, mincing no words, in burning words. Indian brain, Indian intellectual caliber, Indian intellectual ability is unparalleled. None can ever compare himself with that. We are endowed with that by the nature, supreme nature. By birth, we have that ability. Therefore, our seers, our ancient seers and rishis, they have come out with every bit of the conclusion they could say about the ultimate truth. As Swami Ranganathananji used to say, every bit of the truth that man is destined to make research about, man is destined to uncover, has already been done by the Upanishadic seers. Now our task is only to spread it to every nook and corner of the world. Even Vivekananda goes to the extent of saying, I have never quoted anything but Upanishads. Because what else is there to be said at all? What is that can be said which is not already in the Upanishad? Say anything that you want about the ultimate truth, you will find its origin either in the Veda or in the Upanishad, in the Vedanta, to put it in general terminology. So, it is the onerous responsibility of every young man. Vivekananda himself has said, take these truths and throw them broadcast everywhere in the world. Up India and conquer the world through your spirituality. Take these truths, throw them scattered everywhere in the world. The whole world will bow at you. India will become the place of pilgrimage for every man in the world once they come to know the value of the truths our forefathers have long ago discovered and placed at our disposal. I bequeath to you this responsibility, Vivekananda says. We must rise to the occasion. The one most important thing one Indian should do in his life is to acquaint himself thoroughly with the philosophical truths of India and seek every opportunity to see that it is spread to the other parts of the world. Swamiji goes to the extent of saying, go out of India. Anyone who does this work out of India will be respected in India more than the one who does the same thing within the shores of the India. If the whole India has stood up like one man to receive me with open arms, if the whole country has been showering on me so much of appreciation, Vivekananda says, it is because I spread the truths of India in the world outside. So the soil of India is welcoming me the way that I have been. So the soil of India will hail you. And any philosopher, any philosophy that goes against Vedas will be rejected by the soil of India. So many religions have been thrown away out of India. So many religions came. They could not find any followers at all in India. Of course, in the beginning they had some followers, but over a period of time, they were mercilessly thrown out because they were against the Vedas. They were against the Upanishads. Anything that is against the Vedas will be mercilessly thrown away by the soil of India, and anyone who spreads the truths of Vedas outside India will be the most honorable man, and that is the greatest service you can ever do to this country, the great motherland of ours. We are the teachers of the mankind, and we must always teach them. Other subjects we may or may not teach, but remember the ultimate truth about the self of man, the final truth can never come from any corner of the India, from any other corner. It can and it will come only from India, and India alone has got that ability to say anything about the ultimate truth. The subsidiary truths anyone may say perhaps, but the ultimate truth has to come from the mouth of India only. Then only the world will accept it and not otherwise. So, Hinduism is the most profound subject, most relevant subject, and the subject of highest contemporary interest. We all must know about that, make a thorough study about that, and realize our responsibilities in making the same truths spread to all parts of the world and enable thus everyone to know of it and help him to benefit himself thereby. I thank all the authorities of Vishwa Hindu Parishad unit, of Vishwa Hindu Sangam, Virat, some VHS unit of Karnataka for having given me this opportunity. And I invite you all to my ashramas whenever you happen to move in the northern part of Karnataka, so that we can spend a few more moments so joyously with each other, a moment that I am very eagerly seeking towards. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji, for enlightening us on Sanatana Dharma, which is truly a scientific religion. By your talks, we come to know that Hinduism is an ocean of religion. But I just want to have one query regarding to this. Does our constitutional 42nd amendment, which is added the principles of socialism and secularism, is this an hindrance to the growth of Hinduism or Hinduistic principles?
The concept of secularism, as understood by the people who claim themselves as the advocates of our constitution, is totally fallacious. Secularism is a concept irrelevant in India. All along we have been absolutely secular. Secular means you can't discriminate a man simply based on his religion. That is secular. When India has discriminated any person for that matter, right from the days of Israelis coming to India, we have been receiving people belonging to other religions. Is there any one example where a Jew can say he was discriminated against on Indian soil just because he belonged to an alien religion? Is there any example when a Parsi can say he was discriminated against just because he did not belong to Hinduism? Dalai Lama was driven out of Tibet. Tibetans came here. Can any one Tibetan honestly say he has been discriminated against in India just because he did not belong to Hinduism? It is in our blood, it is our nature that we never discriminate a person based not only on religion, on language, on his origin, on his culture. We never discriminate any other person based on all these external parameters because we have been thoroughly taught the philosophy that Atithi Devo Bhava. In fact, we treat an outsider with more love than we treat a fellow Indian. A fellow Indian will not be treated with so much love as we treat an outsider. This is the experience of every outsider. I have inquired about this in Italy. In Italy, in Spain, in Austria, Switzerland, everywhere they say Indians treat us very lovingly. Yes, I said it is one of our tenets in our household culture. Atithi Deva Bhava, a guest is God always. An Indian may starve, but he will not see that you are starving when you are in. He may starve, but he will not let you starve. Because that is how we have been taught. It is in the blood of us. So when that is the thing, it is impossible for an Indian to discriminate a person against just because he does not belong to Hinduism, which he himself belongs to. So the word secular is a silent burden in the constitution. It is totally unnecessary, totally irrelevant. I do not know which person introduced that, but whosoever might have introduced, but he has done a very ridiculous thing, very condemnable thing, not acceptable. And it is a hindrance for spreading Hinduism within India at least. This secularism, and I have gone to, as I said, Genova University in Italy, where I spoke on subjects like India's contribution to science and modern thought. About 2 hours I spoke. Italian students, with what love they listened to it. In fact, in the beginning, there was only sociology department. When the talk was halfway through, Professor Bruno Ball, he in fact requested me to give 2 minutes time so that he could invite the other department also, anthropology department also. Those people also joined, and the number of the students, it got swollen, it became doubled, and they could listen through the rest of the course. And at the end of the course, when he was giving me vote of thanks, he said, Swamiji, please let me know a little while early about your arrival in Italy so that I can arrange for the same talk for the whole university. What a wonderful talk it was. And the talk was India's contribution to science and modern thought, not Italian contribution. Italy people loved it so much. Others are interested to know about the greatness of India. Indian constitution itself is not in a position to let you make people know about their own greatness. There is some strong vested interest working behind this. The awakened section, the enlightened section of Indian society must understand all these nefarious designs, and through some means they must put in all this rubbish. It is intolerable, I tell you. Why? What is wrong? What is wrong in my growing proud of my heritage? Vivekananda used to say, I am one of the proudest men ever born on this earth, and I trace my pride to my ancestry. Yes, if Vivekananda says, everyone should say in India. Because he is the torchbearer. For the India, he is the torchbearer. If he is so proud of his heritage, equally I am. Where is the opportunity for me to make that pride grow more and more? No country in this world is there which can be proud of itself based on its past achievements as much as India is. No country in this world can boast of so much of achievements in its past as India can do. But Indian children cannot know it. They cannot be proud of their own country for the reason they don't know the greatness of their own heritage, the greatness of their own ancestors, which is really illogical, ridiculous.
Okay, Swamiji. Just one more last question from my side, which I want
Yes.
to ask yourselves. Since I'm also a part of Ramakrishna Mutt,
Yeah.
Basangudi,
Yeah.
so as per my understanding and daily conversation with Revered Swami Harshananji Maharaj of Ramakrishna Mutt, Basangudi, we came to know that Hinduism nowadays the people are not practicing efficiently, and there is a lack of Shastra Tejas among Hindus, which is not which is the both which are becoming obstacles for the growth of Sanatana Dharma. Can you brief a bit on this, Swamiji?
If you do not mistake me, straight away I quote what Vivekananda has said to one of the youngsters who approached him for a guidance and you can say a solace. The question was, Swamiji, can we take non-vegetarian food? Vivekananda said, I request you with folded hands, please take non-vegetarian food. If you do not take non-vegetarian food, if you do not build up your physique in a way that you can be proud of it, if you cannot have iron muscles and steel nerves and a willpower made of the same material of which the thunderbolt is made, how can you have a place in the galaxy of nations in future? You cannot survive as a country. You cannot survive as a nation among galaxy of nations. Vivekananda's, I can say, it was his warning, his exhortation. It was his exhortation because we have lost all our kshatra. That is again the effect of Buddhism, the degenerate Buddhism. It emphasized on the non-violence so much so that whatever non-violence is prescribed normally for sannyasis came to be prescribed for grihasthas also. What was the result? 500 horsemen could conquer the place called Sindh. 500 horsemen, because the country had become the country of nincompoops, veritably. No takat, no that chatra in the body, muscles of iron and nerves of steel. If there is anything that needs to be vehemently condemned, it is weakness, physical weakness, intellectual weakness, emotional, moral weakness, and spiritual weakness. Fortunately, intellectually we are not weak, morally we are not weak, spiritually also we are not weak. The one weakness that we have been suffering like anything for the past 1500 years, more than 1000 years, is because of your physical weakness and lack of the ability to sacrifice individual interest for the sake of collective interest. These are the two problems that are eating into the very vitals of India. India's bone marrow is being eaten away because of these two great faults. Sins, the veritable sins, the worst of sins Indians are committing. They are not committing other sins so much. They are committing these two sins. Their physique is not strong. Hanuman is your ideal. Was Hanuman like you? Narendra Vivekananda is your. How was Vivekananda? When a Christian missionary started talking in a way that was really not acceptable for Vivekananda, Vivekananda tried to correct him for a while. When he was not prepared to correct himself, you know what Vivekananda did? He went to him, took him in his arms and said, a word more against my religion, you are thrown into this water. And he was on the deck. He was on the deck of a ship. He lifted him up. The missionary was lifted him up. The missionary was lifted up by Vivekananda. And Vivekananda, a word of condemnation more about Hinduism, the missionary would be thrown into the waters of Bay of Bengal. That was doing the voyage from Madras to Calcutta. Being a sannyasi, did he not exhibit the Kshatra Teja? Sannyasi is not supposed to. But even as a sannyasi, he did, because exhibiting Kshatra Teja may be a sin on the part of a sannyasi. 100 times greater sin is tolerating the insult meted out to your own religion, which is your own mother, which is an awful insult to the truth. Whatever misconceived notion that Christian missionary had about that concept of Hinduism was totally wrong. And he was sticking to that his own concept, which was an insult to the truth. Insulting truth is a greater crime. And tolerating insult that is meted out to your own religion is a greater crime than a sannyasi exhibiting a bit of Kshatra Teja to prevent this heinous crime that is being committed by an unscrupulous man. So, what today India wants, remember, what we want a strong physique. Every village, Every lane, every street in India must have a gymnasium. All Hindu boys, even Hindu girls, must go to gymnasium, do something, and see that they have that iron muscles and the steel nerves. Literally iron muscles and steel nerves. Any threat to India, any threat to Hinduism should be properly dealt with. And no one should ever dare say anything bad against either our country or our religion. Such a day I am looking towards. As a sannyasi, I am 64. Even today, I do dumbbells. I take dumbbells and do exercise. I do some sort of an exercise even today. And during when I read all these things during my college days, it was then that I started going to the gymnasium and I built up my weight increased from 52 kg to 86 kgs. So much crazy I was about building up a strong physique because Vivekananda had affected me so much. Physical strength is the one strength that Hindus very badly need. Yes, we need Kshatriya Teja. And that spirit of martial spirit, the keenness, the passion to defend your religion and your country. No more we are prepared to suffer. No more we are prepared to shed tears. No, Vivekananda, in fact, he wrote a letter, it seems to Josephine McLeod, one of American lady disciples. She had asked in one of the letters to Vivekananda whether she could come to India. Swamiji said, you can come to India, but these are all the disadvantages you have got, inconveniences you have got, because you are an American lady. You have been brought up in luxuries. My country cannot afford all such luxuries. But remember, having come to India, we cannot tolerate any more comments. A single word of condemnation about my country, I cannot tolerate. We have wept enough. No more weeping. If you can put up with all this, you can come. Having come here, you can't comment on our country. I cannot tolerate. Strictly he wrote. You can go through the letter. In the letters of Vivekananda, you have this very clearly mentioned. So that must be the mission of every young man, young woman in India. No more condemnation about either the country or about the religion. We don't tolerate. Let us be fanatics forever. Let us be impatient forever. You can insult me individually, whatever you want. But you cannot with my country, you cannot with my religion. That should be the motto of every young man, every young woman in India today.
Thank you, Swamiji. Over to Gopi sir. You can ask your query.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Swamiji, for a very, very energetic session. And I mean, when he's talked about Maya and Schrodinger's equations and Hoffenheimer speaking and all those things, it makes a lot of sense when you decode them. Especially, we can see the science coming. Today's science, it's more of infant. It's not a professor sort of thing. It's an infancy stage. So very toddler sort of a thing. It has to evolve and grow. It takes a while to science to correct itself to go to the stage. But even if you look at Ramanuja, he mentioned about he got those equations from her goddess. When in the transcendental state, he was listening to it, he got it from the external sources. And even Hoffenheimer, before when he said that Mahabharata, this is the modern day atom bomb that is created. But in the olden days, he mentioned about Mahabharata and all those things. Remember in 1800s, we have seen that there are a lot of Germans and Europeans went after civilization in search of the technologies. India is one of the sources, even swastika and other things, they got it from India. And even the rocket science, missile technology, fire, the gunpowder. There is a saying that it's not from China, came from India, the gunpowder. So a lot of technology has moved from India. Even the they called as the sword, right? What is the Syrian Damascus sword? So
Yeah.
Damascus sword has come from India.
Damascus steel.
So we have been making this high technology metallurgy for thousands of years, way beyond. Anybody can civilize the world can even talk about it. And the question at this point is, you rightly mentioned about the transcendental state that even Oppenheimer mentioned he didn't know about those things well before. He might have got it from the Vedas, our Upanishads. He got the idea from there. So even Tesla, I mean, when he met our philosophers, he got to know about what exactly is that. So I mean, like, please show some light. And one more thing curious me, I mean, give me a lot of goosebumps is in southern weddings, when you see that the purohit takes the newly wedded wife and husband outside and shows the Arundhati and Nakshatra, the twin
Yeah.
stars. And how do our ancient, I mean, like ancestors know in thousands of years before when the so-called no telescope those days, and how could they vision from here such a far-off places? I mean, your insight on those things.
That they are called superhuman powers. Through meditation, all such powers will come. Patanjali, in his Yoga Sutras, in his Raja Yoga, puts a clear mention about this. He says, as you advance stage by stage in the process of meditation, some sort of a superhuman power will come to you, and you will be in a position to see what is there inside earth. You will be in a position to see what is there beyond the solar system. You will be in a position to hear certain voices coming from faraway places. He gives a long list of the powers you get. And it is through that they were, in fact, why? There was, my friend used to say, he was studying in the National College where I also studied. One day he wanted to have some reference to some, he wanted to go through the concept of Big Bang theory written by some Russian author in a book written by a Russian author. He wanted to refer to that. As he was passing through Avenue Road, probably you are all Bangaloreans, you know, Avenue Road is a place where you can see all old books, very good books for a very cheap rate. He got hold of a book written by that same Russian scientist, and while going through the foreword, the first sentence that occurred in the foreword was so striking to him, written by a Russian scientist. The first sentence was, this theory was known to ancient Indians. Big Bang theory. So much taken aback he was, came to Ramakrishna Mission there and consulted one Swami Tadrupananda, who was a highly scholarly person. Swamiji, Russian scientist says like this, where is it mentioned? Where it comes in Indian philosophical lore? He says it is in Taittiriya Upanishad. Very clear, it's Atmava Akasha Sambhutaha Akashat Vayu Vayoragni Agnerapah Adhya Prithvi Prithivyaam Voshadaya Voshadebhyonnam Annat Purushaha. This gives the gist of the whole of the Big Bang theory. Swamiji says, Vivekananda says, all sciences have taken their birth in India. They are only developed elsewhere. Every science has taken its birth in India. It has been only... Agastya was a test tube baby, you know. In Amarakosham, a Sanskrit treatise written by Amarasimha, who was the contemporary of Kalidasa in the court of Vikramaditya, in that Amarakosha, you make a reference. Agastya Kumbha Sambhavaha. Agastya was born. He took his birth in a pot, which is the counterpart for today's test tube. Agastya was a test tube baby. Drona, it seems, Bharadwaja was a test tube baby. Jamadagni was a test tube baby, father of Dronacharya. See, all these things are there. We have been blind towards our ancient texts. How much is there? How much is there? In fact, Will Durant makes a reference to it. You know what does he say? It was Warren Hastings who very early, very soon realized that the material treasures that India had, which the British could very easily loot, was nothing compared to the intellectual treasures India had written through that wonderful language that is Sanskrit. A closest friend of Warren Hastings, William Jones, and Charles Wilkins, these two understood that the treasure that are hidden in Sanskrit language is incomparable in its worth, and the material treasure India could offer England was nothing compared to it. Immediately they started Asiatic Society in Calcutta, started translating everything. Everything started getting translated, and it was first, exported to the British. And from there it went to France. From there it went to so many other places. Some 10 years ago, I was in Switzerland talking to a German boy who later has become Vidya Bhaskar. His German name has gone. His auntie has become a sannyasini. Two of his aunts have become sannyasinis. One is Vivekananda and the other one is Jnaneshwarananda. So from that background, he comes. He is studying in Heidelberg University. You know what did he say? Swamiji, we have more of original Veda texts in our university than you have in Rishikesh in India.
Exactly.
He spent 6 years in Rishikesh, learned Sanskrit, did MA Sanskrit, etc. Went back to Germany, Switzerland. In Heidelberg University, Germany, he is working as a part-time professor in the Department of Indology. We have preserved more of the Vedas than you find anywhere in India, and we never let it go to India. We never part with them because you will never know its worth. You will spoil it. You will lose it. We will never give it to you. Openly, he said, frankly, in a ruthless language, he said that. So, when these people came to know, Warren Hastings and associates, came to know of the worth of the Vedas and all that, they made every effort to collect every manuscript. And today, out of 109 and 113, chapters in Rig Veda, mandalas in Rig Veda, we have only 9 mandalas. Where did the rest go? Where did the rest go? It is a sad story, unfortunately sad story. The solution for all these problems lies in the fact that we need to grow a bit conscious of who we are, what do we mean to the contemporary world today, how much the world is expecting from us. They may grow up like anything, anywhere that is possible for them to reach out to. They can never get the sort of the light that India can offer. The light that can go out of India has no comparison for that. So precious it is, in terms of how much precious it is, in terms of the worth it commands, there is no counterpart for that. Therefore, again, I reiterate the fact that we have tremendous responsibilities. We may neglect another responsibility, but this responsibility we cannot neglect. If at all we don't want to be traitors anymore. If we want to be traitors, well, it's up to us. We can do whatever we want. If we don't want to become traitors to this country, we need to rediscover our responsibility and do something more than what presently we are doing. So all these things are Patanjali Yoga Sutra. You please go through any Ramakrishna Center Raja Yoga book. You will have. You will very clearly know. Vivekananda himself has commented on that. As you advance in meditation, all these supernatural powers will accrue, and the inclusion of all this, rather the culmination of all these powers is what we call as mukti, moksham, which is the established goal, the traditional goal that is set forth before every Indian. You attain mukti so that all these powers will fall at your feet. You will be the master of all these powers. So like that, our forefathers have given us wonderful guidance, which have fallen on deaf ears.
Thank you, Swamiji. And hopefully our future, the science can take a turn from here, and we go from going back to the ancient wisdom with the modern science and take it a new dimension, new way going forward. Even the levitation technology, which our ancestors spoken about, and Vivanas, which our ancestors spoken about. I think these things maybe we need to reinvent or re-look into it and get a new perspective.
Bharadwaja was a great aeronautical engineer. He has devised 6 different types of how to make an aeroplane, of which only I think 1 has been used, and the remaining 5 are there. Recently, I came to know Italy is showing a lot of interest in deciphering that language and coming out with newer and newer discoveries. Italy uses it, England uses it, France uses it. When does India use it? Having been the origin of all such wonderful sciences, what is India doing? So that is the $1,000,000 question that is looming before us.
Thank you, Swamiji. Tejas, any questions?
Yeah, in audience, there is one question. Is there any distinction between Jivatma and Paramatma, and whether they are one and the same, according to Madhavacharya? So the Puneet Deshpande is asking.
Jivatma is our present state. Paramatma is our potential state. We have all the capability to become Paramatma. Presently, unfortunately, We are not. So the goal of the Indian life, the goal of an Indian, the goal of any human being, whether he knows it or not, is to become Paramatma only. That will happen when your ego will get torn off and the self establishes itself there. This is something like a cub growing in the company of a flock of sheep, mistaking itself as another sheep. But a lion from the neighboring forest will come and it will teach the cub that it is not sheep, even though it is behaving like that because of its company. It never knew who its parents were because it had lost its mother right at the time of its birth itself. It grew up in the company of the flock of sheep and it thought itself as another sheep only. But the lion from neighboring forest came and said, "You are really lion." And when it came to know that it was lion only, its lionine feature started manifesting. So, like that, the Guru will come and tell us that potentially we are all Paramatman only, but unfortunately, we are caught up in the mesh of Maya, which is nothing but the attraction for Kama, Kanchana, and Kirti. Three Kakaras. Kama, Kanchana, lure for women, lure for wealth, and lure for fame. They have cut us up. Ishavasya Upanishad says, truth is hidden in a vessel which is golden. Hiranymayena patrena satyasyapi hitam mukham. A golden pot contains a truth in that. We are so mediocre, we are so alpas that we get attracted by the golden pot itself, golden vessel itself, never bothering to know if vessel itself is golden, then how much precious should be the material that is kept inside that. We never think about that. So this Kama, Kanchana and Kirti, they have been so much luring for us, we never bother to know is there anything superior to that. Only here and there, rare souls, they try to bother like Siddhartha becoming Buddha, Narendranath becoming Vivekananda, and so many great men, later stages of their life, they are becoming the great teachers of the world, even though they were ordinary people in the beginning of their life. One or two may develop that desire, may work out in that direction, and ultimately come to the conclusion that he is Paramatman only and starts manifesting all the features of Paramatma and will enjoy the bliss, the grandeur, the greatness of being a Paramatma. So to say, we are all Jivatmans presently, all the potentiality to become Paramatman. This is the exhortation given by Chandogya Upanishad. The teacher tells the student, Tattvamasi Shvetaketu. Shvetaketu, you are that. You are that only. Atmanam Vidhi, know what you are. Tvam Brahmasi Nasamshayaha. Undoubtedly, you are Brahman only. So the teacher goes on impressing upon the student that he is Brahman only, which the student realizes at the end and comes out with the declaration, yes, Aham Brahmasmi. Ha, Uha, Uhavu, Ahamannam, 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 Ahamannado, Ahamannado, Ahamannaha. So Taittiriya Upanishad, we see the Udgar put out by the boy who realized that he is Brahman food, he is Brahman only. Ha, Uha, Uha, oh, what a great thing. The daughter of Durvasa, Vagambruni, she also realized that she was Brahman and she gives out in beautiful Sanskrit her experiences of being Brahman, which today we all chant as Devi Suktam. Aham Rashtre Sangamaneva Sonam. I myself have become the whole universe. She says, Aham Rashtre, the whole country, I have become the whole country. So that is how the experiences of these realized souls are. So it is so. We are Paramatman only, but caught up in the Maya of the Bhagavan, it is Vyavaharika Satya. I am Jivatman is Vyavaharika Satya, which is not the highest truth. Highest truth is Paramarthika Satya. So Paramarthika, Vyavaharika Satya is ego. Even British psychologists today, British psychiatrists, R.D. Lang, who did lot of work in 1920s, 1930s, G.B. Wells, H.G. Wells, they all have come out with a wonderful concurrence, a statement that is in concurrence with this idea of Indians that Vyavaharika Satya, we are Aham, Paramarthika Satya, we are Paramatman. But that Aham is a delusion. The British psychiatrists have defined ego, Aham, as a convenient, provisional delusion with a tremendous strategic value. Just because this Vyavahara Prapancha will have to go, it has to run itself. This Aham, Lord Himself has put Aham in us. But we are not that Aham. Again and again, in fact, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Jnana, all the 4 yogas are there only to help you overcome this shackle of Aham and establish yourself in that infinitude, which is the Atman or the Paramatma.
Yeah, thank you, Swamiji. I have one. Just my question is last question. Like, just wanted to ask you. Nowadays, we see that the youth is getting uh, impacted by the westernized culture. So, how can we encourage people to follow Sanatana Dharma?
Rakesh, Swami
Like, what will
Chinmayananda,
be
you have
your
heard of. Swami
Tejas.
Chinmayananda, you have heard of.
yes,
Tejas.
yes,
Swami
yes, yes,
Chinmayananda, you have heard of. He used to
yes.
say, Indian youth are not useless, they are useless. They are not hopeless, they are hopeless. Therefore, they are not going to divine centers, they are going to wine centers. Our youth are even today, they are godlike. I have never come across a single boy who is either dull headed or who is vicious, who has gone astray. I have never seen a boy who has gone astray because he wanted to go astray. He never got the right guidance from any quarter. Parents are incapable of giving the right guidance. Teachers are incapable. Education system is incapable. Sorry to say, don't mistake me if I say, the one quarter where they can get right guidance is Ramakrishna Center, where even though our children are prepared to go, their parents don't let them go. That has been my experience. Ravi Chandandavar, you have heard, the IPS officer from Karnataka. Mahantesh, you know, Samarthana Mahantesh.
Yes.
He was my student. Every week, Sunday night, I used to tell about Vivekananda about half an hour to Mahantesh when he was my student in 1981-82. 2 years I was headmaster in a school called as Ramana Maharshi Academy for Blind in Bangalore before I became sannyasi. I was first headmaster in that school for blind. Later, I joined Canara Bank. Later, I resigned that and became a sannyasi to say something about my pre-monastic life. So, Mahantesh, I used to take class every Sunday for half an hour. That impacted him so much that today he is a force to reckon with. Ravi Chandandavar was a beggarly boy. Today, he is the best IPS officer, you can say, in the whole Karnataka. So impoverished, so poor, could not fill his belly once in 3 days. Even in a novel, even in a cinema, you might not have come across the sort of poverty that he was stricken with. That man, though all his studies was done in Kannada medium, including graduation, cleared IPS right in the first attempt. His mother is illiterate, father is illiterate, a village boy. Do you say our children are useless, our boys are useless? I never say that. We have the best boys in the world. Indian boys are the best, Indian girls are the best. Most unfortunate thing is they are not getting the right guidance from any quarter. Parents are most incompetent to do that. If at all there is any parent that is guiding his son that he is giving. I am sorry to say, almost I have come to the conclusion that those children that will not listen to their parents alone have come up in their life. I do not know how the situation is in Bangalore. In this part of Karnataka, if you listen to the parent, you will never grow because they can never give the right type of guidance. What all they want is my son should always be in front of my eyes. Let him take a police, let him become a police, let him become a peon, let him become a watchman. But always, all through his life, he must be in front of my eyes because father is so much attached to the son. There is a girl in Gadag who got 86% in MSc Physics. Father wanted her to be in his own town. Ultimately, she became a railway police. I told her 100 times to go to America and do her PhD in physics. 86%, getting 86% in MSc Physics is not joke. She could get a seat for PhD in any university in America. But father did not let her go. He wanted her to be in his own hometown. What would she do? She became a police. The similar situation obtained with a boy in hospital. Because he was a boy, I twisted his ear every now and then. I vehemently took him to task. I was particular that he should go to America and do MS. He had got only 65% in B. Tried through GRE for some seat in some American university for MS. He got seat in three universities: Rochester, Chicago, and some other university. I forgot. Presently, he's in Chicago University. A boy that got 62% in BE got a seat for MS in Chicago University. Girl that got 86% in MSc Physics, could she not get anything like that? The parents are doing what? Curbing her. Why? Incompetent parents. There is no competence on the part of either the parents or the teachers, or where our younger generation should look to for the right guidance. Where are the people to boost their morale, to lift them up? So such practical difficulties are so much so that perhaps that may not be so much rational to put the blame on our younger generation. Given the right guidance, given the right atmosphere, they can do anything and everything. That has been my experience, at least. So the responsibility, the onerous responsibility lies on the shoulders of people, and it's so good that people like you are forming a forum, and through such forums, you are coming out with all the requisite guidelines and all that. At least people that listen to your programs will have some better day waiting for them to knock the door. So people that are not accessible to the sort of the programs that you people are holding, where should they go and what should happen to them? So the sort of the programs that you people are holding must increase in its number, and the sort of the service-minded people that you people are must also increase in their number, and there should be widespread programs of the subject sort. Then only you can see a ray of hope. And more than anything else, it must be made compulsory for every teacher to be a source of inspiration. The Department of Education should take a report from every teacher how many students you have inspired. Completing syllabus is the worst thing that we can do. Why should we complete syllabus? Where is the need for completing syllabus? Are you inspiring your student? Horashman says, a teacher that is trying to teach the pupil without inspiring him is simply hammering on the cold iron. Inspire the student, he will take care of the rest. Merely cramming information into the brain of a boy is something suicidal, I tell you. Rather, we have to ignite in him the irrepressible hunger, the unquenchable thirst for acquisition of the knowledge. An inspiring teacher. I have experienced in my own life in National College, Bangalore. There used to be professors like Dr. G. Ramakrishna and professors like M.S. Venkata who used to teach us mathematics. And it's a lot of physics. What sort of professors we had. Even today, I remember so much of physics I learned, so much of chemistry I learned, so much of calculus, etc. I learned during my degree days. 40 years later, I memorize all those things. That is because we went into the subject so deeply, thoroughly. That can never happen if teacher is only syllabus oriented. He must be inspiration oriented, and unfortunately, the origin wherefrom this inspiration can flow is not as much in its abundance as it should have been.
True, Swamiji. Earlier we had Gurukuls, and also that system needs to come more so
Yeah.
that the
Some new education policy is coming. Let us see what is there inside.
Yes.
yes, sure. Thanks, Swamiji, for that answer.
Thank you, Swamiji, for an amazing insight.
Thank you. I had one of the best occasions in my life today evening, I tell you.
Likewise.
I was in a good mood to talk to you all because of your inspiring presence.
Yes, Gopiji, you can.
Thank you.
Gopiji,
Thank you very much,
facing internet
Swamiji.
issues.
Thank
Can you please conclude the program, sir?
Thank
Please
you.
conclude the program, please.
Yes, we'll do that. Thank you, Swamiji, for really enlightening us with the amazing thoughts, and I'm pleasantly surprised when you said that we need to be virats. So most of the time, like most of the Swamijis will say we need to be peace and soft and all those things. When we said that we need to be virat, like that's what we are, like Virat Hindustan Sangam from. So we always take pride of it, and we take a step further about it. And also the knowledge, I mean the ocean of knowledge which our ancestors left, we need to gain as much as possible. So thank you for all the information which you have given us, and the wisdom that you have given us. and most of the viewers will take it from here and they use it and to be a Virats. And thank you, Swamiji, for that. And again,
Thank
I
you.
thank our VHS President, Karnataka President Nikun Shaji, and Tejas, Gadigi Rakesh, and our technical team, Ishwar Ayarji, and last but not least, like our Mahentesh ji from Samarthanam, who recommended. I mean, in fact, who told about you, and I really thank him for that as well. And last but not least, again, for the amazing audience who have been like stood for almost now for we have like 1.5 hour session. Like usually this first time we had that such a long session, Swamiji. So thank you one and all, and
Yeah.
Jai Shri Ram, Jai Ram Krishna.
Please, all of you pay visit our ashram.
Sure, Swamiji.
Sir, sure. Audience was asking the address also, so we'll share the address with them.
Yes. That is Ramakrishna Vivekananda Ashrama, Gadag.
Gadak. Okay.
Gadag. You can add APMC yard.
Okay.
Ramakrishna Vivekananda Ashrama, APMC yard, Gadag. Enough.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ ಸರ್.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ.
Thank you.
ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದಾಗಲಿ. ಧನ್ಯವಾದ. ಗುಡ್ ನೈಟ್.